Great.
5 minutes to 4. You've got time
Clockwork
to
Orange.
thrill us with the Clockwork
So
Orange.
a Clockwork Orange.
And
a Clockwork Orange.
A Clockwork Orange.
In fact, weirdly enough, almost...
Just Clockwork Orange?
No, almost the most iconic A in terms of poster design. I mean, the A of a Clockwork Orange in the poster design is the thing that strikes you. So it is a Clockwork Orange. So this is Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of Anthony Burgess's novel, which when it first came out in the early 1970s was a huge cause célèbre. It's the story of it's kind of dystopian near future, young thug Alex, brilliantly played by Malcolm McDowell, who he and his friends, Droogies, wreak havoc, violence, mayhem, live for thrills, except that he's dedicated to Ludwig van. And the part of the film that most people remember is the design at the beginning, the kind of cricket whites with the strange protector worn outside the trousers, the bowler hats, the eye with the eyelash put on just one eye, and the ultra-violence of the first movement of the film, which is about 30 minutes long. What's strange is that people forget that the large part of the movie happens after that. And it's really to do with the Ludovico technique, which is that they have imprisoned this young thug, and he's going to be in prison for a very, very long time. But then he volunteers for a thing called the Ludovico technique, which will make him averse to violence. The question is, will it take away his free will? And if you take away somebody's free will, do they become anything more than a Clockwork Orange? And it is because the opening section of the film is so incendiary and so, I mean, there is something about it that's going to kind of real air of danger about that opening sequence that you forget that the rest of the film plays out like this very strange black comedy, which is dealing with, quite interesting ideas about free will, about brainwashing, about conforming, about changing people's minds through aversion therapy. It's also an awful lot of it is about cinema. There's this voiceover that Mcdowell does, which is talking about the way that things don't seem real until you see them on a screen. And there are things in it that are still now every bit as shocking as they were when the film first came out. But I think the one thing that has changed is that with distance, it's been able to see the film for what it is rather than see it for the first 30, 40 minutes of the film. I mean, the design is extraordinary. The soundtrack by Wendy Carlos is absolutely, riveting, that kind of electronica version of classics, which really became the sort of sound of the future. And of course it was so influential. It was, it inspired the costumes that Bowie wore when he was doing the Ziggy Stardust stuff. Years later it would inspire Zig Sputnik. So there we are, ups and downs, swings and roundabouts. The Lord taketh and the Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. But it is interesting now being seen on a big screen because it is something that needs to be seen on the big screen, to see it for what it is, that actually the most of the movie is this kind of weird satirical debate about what happens when you take away somebody's free will. And I do think that Malcolm McDowell's performance in it is I think Malcolm McDowell is a great actor anyway, but I love him in a lot of weird films. I love him in Caligula. I love him in Oh Lucky Man, which I think is my favourite Malcolm McDowell film. But there is something about Clockwork Orange which is still because for a long time you couldn't see it, because after it first came out, Stanley Kubrick told Warners to remove it from circulation in the UK, so you couldn't see it for about 25 years in the UK.
Still in 18?
Oh, yes.
A very 18. This has been a Something Else production for BBC Radio 5 Live. Mark, your movie of the week is...
Clockwork Orange.
OK.
There was me, that is Alex, and my 3 drinks.
What? What are you saying?
I was doing Clockwork Orange. It wasn't me, sir. I was led astray by the treachery of others. Society is to blame. The other bit when he goes, it's when they're in the middle of the Ludovico technique at the very beginning, and he goes, I see now, sir, that violence is wrong, sir, because it's like against society and that.
Come and see the violence inherent in the
system. It's come and see the oppression inherent in the system, isn't it?